and welcome to your English news broadcast live on ERi-TV. It's exactly 10:30 p.m. on Eritrea's local time. From our headquarters at Asmara with your domestic and international news in brief, I'm Zahra Baduri. But first, we'll begin with your major headlines for this hour. Martyrs' Day commemorated with patriotic zeal. An announcement from the Ministry of Health. Biden and Putin conclude high-stakes diplomacy at Geneva summit. Hardliner Ibrahim Raisi hailed as Iranian's new president, and more. Welcome to your domestic in brief. June 20th, Eritrea's Martyrs' Day was commemorated by nationals inside the country and abroad with patriotic zeal. President Isaias Afwerki laid a wreath at Asmara's Patriots Cemetery in the early morning hours today in commemoration of Martyrs' Day and in tribute to Eritrea's best sons and daughters who paid the ultimate price to assert and defend Eritrea's national independence and sovereignty. Similarly, Martyrs' Day was commemorated in all regions of the country by putting wreaths at their respective martyrs' cemeteries. The commemoration event were conducted within the confines of COVID-19 guidelines. The event was also highlighted by tree planting popular campaigns, as well as cultural performances depicting the glorious legacy of the martyrs and the steadfastness of the Eritrean people. Exactly at 1 o'clock, a minute of silence in memory of the fallen heroes and heroines was observed by nationals inside the country and abroad in their homes. On 19th June, nationals inside the country and abroad also commemorated Martyrs' Day with candle vigil inside their homes. On your health report, 26 patients have been diagnosed positive for COVID-19 in tests carried out today at quarantine centers and OPD services in Asmara Central Region. On the other hand, 36 patients who have been receiving medical treatment in hospitals in the central region have recovered fully and have been discharged from these facilities. The total number of recovered patients to date has accordingly risen to 4,818, while the number of deaths still stands at 19. The total number of confirmed cases in the country to date has increased to 5,362. Ministry of Health, Asmara, 20th June 2021. Over 63 million nakfa have been disbursed in the last 6 months to families of martyrs in the southern region, according to Mr. Frey Mahari, head of the Ministry of Labor and Social Welfare in the region. Regarding the contribution of nationals, Mr. Frey said that nationals abroad contributed 221,000 nakfa, and that was dispersed to 57 families in the region, indicating that on top of the monetary support they have extended. Mr. Frey stated that nationals inside the country have contributed material support as well as plowing and harvesting of farmlands of the families of the martyrs and called for its reinforced sustainability. In the southern region in 2020, over 70 million nakfa was dispersed to families of martyrs in the form of a monthly payment by the government, and the support worth about 2,670,000 nakfa was extended to disadvantaged families of martyrs, the report added. Continuing, members of the PFDJ Cultural Affairs conducted a voluntary blood donation and sanitation activity in connection with the 20th June Martyrs' Day. The participants donated 46 bags of blood in the National Blood Transfusion Center and conducted sanitation activity and planting tree seedlings at the Orota National Referral Hospital. Veterans artists Haile Gabru and engineer Asgodom Wolde Mikael, who took part in the program, expressed satisfaction for participating in the program and called for transferring such a noble culture to prosperity. According to the report, members of the Fire Brigade and Water and the Department of Agriculture and Land in the Central Region participated in the program by providing water and tree seedlings. In the same vein, residents of the Maiworki administrative area, the Kamhari subzone, contributed 16,000 nakfa in connection with the 20th June Martyrs Day in support of 40 families of martyrs. On your final domestic cultural program has been organized in Mendafara subzone in connection with 20th June Martyrs Day. The cultural program that was conducted at the Kudo Himbasha Hall in Mendafara city included songs, poems, and musical drama, among others depositing the glorious legacy of the martyrs and the steadfastness of the entire Eritrean people. Speaking at the event, Mr. Hizkias Wahbet, administrator of Mendafara subzone, said that honoring the martyrs, renewing our pledges, is the responsibility of every citizen that should strengthen contribution in the preservation of the shining history and transfer it to posterity. In related news, extensive tree planting and soil and water conservation popular campaign was organized by members of the National Union of Eritrean Women Youth Organization, as well as the Cooperative Association of the former members of the 70th Army Division in Barantu subzone at the premises of the Martyrs Cemetery in Barantu City. Up next with your global report, stay with us for more. And with your reports on the international line, one of the most highly anticipated political events of the year drew to a closer earlier than expected on Wednesday, with Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Joe Biden ending their historic meeting at a summit in Geneva after less than 4 hours. Biden and Putin first met in a small face-to-face session and then expanded their talks to a wider meeting with other officials. They were set to hold separate press conferences after the summit. The two leaders shook hands as they agreed with each other at Villa Lagarde in Switzerland, chosen as the location for the summit due to its history of political neutrality. On the meeting, his U.S. counterpart Putin said he hoped that the meeting would be productive. The summit began with a first meeting between Biden and Putin, accompanied by Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, as well as translators. After this initial meeting, a wider delegation met for several sessions before the press conference, with Putin going first ahead with talks. The Putin-Biden summit was closely watched around the world. U.S.-Russian relations remain intense following a slew of geopolitical clashes and international sanctions in recent years. The agenda for the president's meeting was expected to include strategic stability in quotation, climate change, as well as nuclear stability, arms control, and cybersecurity, and potentially a range of other topics, including the fate of jailed opposition leaders Alexei Navalny, Ukraine, and Belarus, and the outlook for Russian and U.S. national imprisoned in each other's countries. Russia's annexation of Crimea from Ukraine in 2014 got it suspended from then the Group of Eight and earned its international sanctions. Since Russia has been accused of 2016 U.S. elections widely, two nerve agent attacks in the UK in 2018 and allegedly on Neverland in 2020, as well as involvement in cyber attacks and human rights abuse. Russia has always denied the multiple accusations leveled against it, saying it is a victim of anti-Russian statement in the West. The summit came hot on the heels of the fury of American diplomacy with its allies in Europe and beyond. Biden visited the UK for the the Group of Seven summit last week, then a NATO summit in Brussels on Monday, and then the EU-US summit on Thursday, giving the US leaders plenty of food for thought for his meeting with Putin. Ibrahim Raisi, the hardliner head of Iran's judiciary, has been hailed the country's new president after his three main rivals congratulated him on his victory, and primary results showed he had secured 17.8 million votes, a huge amount of 14.5 million more than his nearest rival. With 90% of the votes counted, Iranian officials said 28.6 million people had cast their ballots. More than 41 million did so in 2017, as official results will be published later on Sunday, but it appears that Raisi secures well over 50% of the votes, avoiding the need for runoff. Raisi issued a victory statement saying he will form a hardworking anti-corruption and revolutionary cabinet. He added that he would be president of all those who voted for him, those who didn't vote for him, and even those who didn't vote at all. His victory means all the arms of government, elected and unelected, are in the grip of conservatives, ending the uneasy dualism of the past 8 years, when the outgoing center president Hassan Rouhani found himself at odds with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and conservative clerics. Rouhani's presidency became increasingly unpopular as the U.S. imposed sanctions that deprived ordinary Iranians of the economic benefit he had promised would come from signing the 2015 nuclear deal with Washington. The conservative Mohsen Raisi and the centrist former head of the central bank Abdul Nasser Hemeti both sent their congratulations to Raisi, and Raisi secured 3.3 million votes and Hemeti 2.4 million. Raisi secured 15.8 million votes when he stood in 2017 and was soundly beaten. Continuing with your international, West African leaders present at summit in Ghana and on Saturday agreed on a new road map to launch a single currency in 2027. The bloc had planned to launch a common currency this year, but postponed the plan due to the challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic. The ECOWAS Commission President Jean-Claude Cozy-Bouro said the pandemic had upset plans to implement the Convergence Pact. He said that they have a new roadmap and a new Convergence Pact that will cover the period between 2022 and 2026, and in 2027 being the launch of the economy. The currency known as ECO aims to replace the CFA franc used in former French colonies. Proponent of the ECO says it will help countries break dependence and exploitation by Paris. But some countries such as Nigeria and Ivory Coast have been accused of dragging their feet on the issue. The summit also discussed Mali's political crisis. However, the bloc suspended Mali after a coup that toppled the country's transitional government in late May. Junta leader Colonel Assami Goita has since been sworn in as president and activist Changwol Magai as prime minister. But the summit did not lift Mambako's suspension despite noting positive development. Goita has vowed to stick to the old transition schedule, which prescribes elections and a return to civilian rule in February 2022. On your final reports, over 500,000 people in Brazil have died from COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic, informed Brazilian Health Minister Marcelo Querga on Saturday. The minister tweeted that the pandemic, which struck Brazil and the entire world, has claimed 500,000 lives in Brazil alone, and that he is relentlessly working to vaccinate all Brazilians as soon as possible, and changed the scenario that has been traumatic to U.S. for more than a year. Querga expressed condolences to the friends and relatives of those who died due to the disease, and the country has registered more than 17.8 million COVID-19 cases. According to CNN, there's barely a person in Brazil today who hasn't lost a loved one with coronavirus, said local scientists, as the country reaches the grim milestone of 500,000 deaths. The South American nation, which holds half the continent's population, is being decimated by the virus. The 500,000 death toll is twice as high as it was 6 months ago, a sign that the monetary rate is accelerating, according to experts. The country has suffered from a slow vaccine rollout and staunches in resistance to contaminate measures by the government of President Jair Bolsonaro, who has downplayed the gravity of the virus. With no lockdown and just 11.4% of the population fully vaccinated, the country is considered a barren of new variants and is increasingly isolated from the rest of the world. To date, more than 100 countries are restricting the entry of Brazilians, according to the Foreign Relations Ministry. Dear viewers, that is all for now. Until we are back with some more news, you're going to enjoy the rest of our programs. But until then, these were your major headlines. Martyrs' Day commemorated with patriotic zeal. An announcement from the Ministry of Health. And more on your domestic and in your international. Biden and Putin concluded high-stake diplomacy at Geneva summit. Hardliner Ibrahim Raisi hails as Iranian's new president, and more. Glory to our fallen heroes and victory to the mass. That is all for now. Thanks for watching.